Whether it's nonsense or a closely held secret of the super elite in the country, less likely. Talk of the deep state is certainly more commonplace today than it was 2 years ago. People talk about it around the table now. How did it make the jump from the fringe to Hannity's opening monologue, night after night, and the president's Twitter account? I talked with Axios political reporter Stef Kight, who tracks this every day. How did the concept and the danger of the deep state catch fire on the right?
Right, so the idea of deep state sort of originates with this idea that there's a shadowy network of people within the government, often intel agencies or the military, who are trying to coerce elected officials. So it's this outside people with an agenda versus democracy. And so that idea kind of ends up with lots of conspiracy theories, which is what has happened on the right. We saw a huge rise of the term deep state last year. If you look at Google Trends, there's this huge spike kind of in January of last year, sort of around when Trump was starting his office, and a lot of that comes from all of the leaks, right? People saw leaking as agencies trying to get back at Trump, as agencies versus Trump. And so that's often what the right tends to point to, that it's government agencies and people embedded within these agencies who don't want Trump to succeed.
Is it this group of puppeteers who are pulling these strings and they're malevolent and they're power hungry, or is it, as you say, maybe someone in the EPA who's leaking because they want to normalize things?
Yeah, and I think there is that, right? We have checks and balances in our democracy, and I think with President Trump's presidency, we're seeing those checks and balances tested a lot more than maybe we're used to seeing them. We're seeing Congress check the president. We've seen courts check the president with injunctions, and we've seen the president say, I'm not going to sign that immigration bill. So I think part of it is coming from agencies not knowing what to do, trying to figure out this sort of topsy-turvy administration. But the right likes to play that, the far right likes to play this as an agenda that people are out to get Trump for no reason.
I wonder if in the middle, the moderates in the country, or the left, if this idea of the deep state has taken root to a degree that no matter what happens in the future, all sides are going to be claiming that when something doesn't go their way.
You know, I don't think we've seen as much of the conspiracy end of things on the left, but I think there are certain aspects to the idea of deep state that resonate with people, especially after we've seen surveillance of American citizens. I think people are a little bit nervous about that. And even if you look at the rhetoric around the NRA recently, there's almost something seemingly like the NRA is paying off our elected officials to keep, you know, guns prevalent. I think that's an example of where almost this sort of deep state sort of thinking kind of reveals itself on the left, pointing out areas where there are people paying off our elected officials in ways that they don't see as kosher.
I wonder if this is similar to what Hillary Clinton famously went on TV and called the vast right-wing conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are correlations, right? There are always ways to play what the other side is doing as a conspiracy, and I think that's something that we should be watching for. And we've seen there is a growing distrust of institutions in the U.S. Look at all of the polls, especially the millennial generation. We don't trust any institution. We don't trust the church. We don't trust the state. We don't trust, you know,
politicians.
Yeah, politicians, anything. So I think that distrust of the media as well is what fuels this sort of deep state thinking.